Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook. This podcast is inspired by a Quincy Jones quote, "Imagine what a harmonious world it would be if everyone shared a little of what they're good at." In Harmonious World, I chat with musicians and those with an interest in music to get them to share what they are good at. My past guests include Grammy winners, nominees, and those starting out in the music business, as well as seasoned professionals. Alongside the podcast, my blog contains album and live performance reviews, and all the links are in the show notes. For this episode, I'm joined by pianist Marina Albero. Her album, A Nomad of Sound, is out now. And what you're listening to is Old Song from A Nomad of Sound. So as well as being a pianist, Marina is the composer of the tracks on this album. The whole album was recorded in New Orleans at Marini Studios and the Ellis Marsalis Center. I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Marina Albero. Welcome to Harmonious World. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. What an honor.
You were telling me just now you moved to New Orleans, and this album was recorded in New Orleans. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It is. I came last year about the same time in January, and I stayed until May. Just, I wasn't planning on making a full album. I just wanted to write music, take a break after 20 years, 25 years almost of motherhood. My kids moved out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can do whatever I want. So I decided to come into New Orleans, which was on my bucket list of musical places. I wanted to stay for a while. And I just fell in love with the community, with the music, not so much the weather. It's crazy weather. But I like it. And it reminds me a lot of Cuba, what I studied as a teenager. So there is this music happening anytime, anywhere. The same kind of trees and nature in a way. So I felt really like home.
That's fantastic. And the music that's come out of it is absolutely stunning. This is a lovely album.
Thank you, Hilary.
So it's called A Nomad of Sound, and it feels like there are influences from, as you say, from Cuba, from the States, from all around the world, which is just lovely.
My music really reflects my life experiences. My first album, which is a triple album in the span of 10 years, it's called A Life Soundtrack. Because I always felt like the music I was playing was totally informed by my experiences and travels with my family, musicians' family. So that when I was little, we would go to Morocco and play with a Moroccan orchestra. And we would go to Japan and play with a Japanese ensemble. So, to me, music, it's been not so much of a mental state, it's more of a body experience. And that's what happened to me in New Orleans. Again, I wasn't planning on making an album. I did plan on having a recording session to just capture the experience of that moment. I think I was smart enough to film and have everything on video so that people can see that there is a big production, a big overdub or even plan. I was just at the studio with different ensembles, different musicians that I met over here. And it happened what happened. And we didn't have much time. It was recorded in one day, like 6 hours at the Ellis Marsalis Center and 4 hours for the brass band at a different studio at Marigny. So it's pretty much, it's not perfect. It's not like very prepared, but I think it's very fresh. And to me, it reflects the great energy that I experience in New Orleans for sure.
Definitely. There is a real energy. And I love the fact that you listen to one track and then something else pops up and you're like, whoa, is this the same album? It's amazing. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's how my music and my life is.
That's a great way to be. So you were in the Marini studios, but also the Ellis Marsalis Center, which is
Yes.
that's
Wow.
one of those places I really want to get to.
You're gonna love it. It's a beautiful project. Or, well, not project, it's a reality. As soon as I walked into that place and I saw all the little kids playing music and learning from great teachers, local musicians, they also have the little concert hall where I recorded on Ellis Marsalis's piano, the maestro's piano. It was like, wow, why is it so beautiful? Why am I here? It's a little bit overwhelming in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And so I just fell in love. The kids played for me when I come and visit. I actually applied for volunteering, but I was approved right when I was leaving, and I'm going to go back and I want to be there. I love mentoring, seeing the passion that little kids and teenagers have for music. It's just like really inspiring. It reignites my own, like, inner student, inner child over and over. So seeing that project and being able to record on such a beautiful instrument with so much history, not only in New Orleans, but in the world, in the jazz history, that was an honor that again, sometimes I feel like I'm not worthy. But you know what? Lately I started saying, maybe I am. Just enjoy the process. Don't take it too seriously. Just be
Yeah.
grateful. And it was a magical day, definitely magical.
That's fantastic. At this point in the podcast, I would like to play an extract from, and I don't know how you pronounce it, Blau Blueset.
That's perfect. Blau blueset in Catalan, my mother tongue, it means blue. Blau is the color, blue. And blueset means blues in seven. So that the
Oh,
first part, it's like blue, it's like more sad or more like, introspective. And then there is a blues in seven that I always, since I wrote that music, I felt like it belonged to New Orleans. And I didn't know anything about New Orleans itself. I've never been before when I wrote that song, really in 2021, probably. And then I went for it and I wrote the arrangement for brass band because I'm in love with the brass band.
yeah.
And I'm very honored that Chris Cotton, the trumpet player that solos in it, born and raised in New Orleans and member of the New Breed Brass Band, he told me after the recording, Marina, you captured the jazz funeral. Because the first part is the procession, when you take like the deceased person to the church or to the cemetery. And then once that ritual is over, the trumpet is just called a second line. And I did it in 7/4. So I was very honored because at that point I told Chris, I've never been at a jazz funeral. I'm so honored that this energy just came to me and that happened. So yeah, let's hear a little bit about it. Why not?
Fantastic. It really is. The 7/4 feel. It's sort of uncomfortable, but actually it's just, do you know what I mean? It's like
It's
there's something
limping.
about, you want it to be in 4/4 and it's not, it's in 7/4, but it's just wonderful.
It's the second line in 7, and I had it in my head, and I just think that it worked out really nicely. Although it was hard for some musicians, second line musicians
Oh
on
yeah.
percussion, saying, "Oh my gosh, what you said, it's limping." And I'm like, yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, but it's a wonderful piece of music.
Thank you, Hillary.
So you said that you were traveling around a lot with your family. That must have been an
Yes.
amazing experience.
Well, that's been my whole life. To me, when you're born in a family, you think that that's normal and that everybody has the same life you've got.
Yeah.
It was great because it really, at the beginning, again, I wasn't really paying attention to how special it was. It came later on in my life. I was like, wow, all these baggage that I have, how I was able to play in any musical setup. My mom and my dad told me that I was on stage. My dad was a songwriter. He would write in the 70s. He was fighting against the dictatorship in Spain through his singing. So, like a protest songwriter, singing in Catalan, which was forbidden. You could not do it publicly. And my mom came from more the conservatoire, but she quickly got interested about the traditional Iberian instruments. So she started a big research, and my dad joined her. And they were like restoring all the forgotten instruments and songs, not only from Catalonia, but she also went to Segovia and learned from Agapito Marazuela, who was like amazing musician and musicologist. And actually Agapito was also in jail like 20 years because he didn't want to play for the dictator because he was a national prize of classical guitar. And after he got off jail, he never ever played guitar again. And he started doing this, restoring these traditional instruments. So that my mom and my dad, their concerts were a mix between traditional music and original songs by my dad. And they say that one day I was maybe, I don't remember that day, but they had several instruments on stage that they would use or not. And apparently, the first thing I did when I was between 2 and 3 years old, I just went on the xylophone, a small xylophone they had, and I just started playing on the song perfectly, in tune and in rhythm. And they were like, "Oh, okay, now we're 3 people in the band." And ever since, so we've been doing a lot of street shows, trying to give back our culture to the people. So my mom and my dad focus a lot on children's shows and on street shows. We did these big parades with the big giants in Catalonia and the big heads, so that they really wanted to give people back their own culture that was pretty much forgotten. And from there, you start connecting with other rooted ensembles and music from anywhere in the world. So that we also got to Seattle when I was 12, and then we just went to Dusty Strings. They make instruments and they have a little shop in Seattle, and I found the hammered dulcimer there when I was 12. And that was life changing for me because, in my background, what I studied, it's classical music on piano. Then I also added drums, jazz drums, which led me to jazz piano. And finally, I transitioned to classical percussion. So I love percussion, and just having these hammers on my hand and being able to play strings and percussion was really life changing. And also on that instrument, I am self taught. And after 15 years of conservatoire, I felt so free. I say that on hammered dulcimer, I don't feel like I never make mistakes because nobody taught me what's right and what's wrong. So unfortunately, on that album, there is no hammered dulcimer. It's a diatonic instrument. I cannot really play jazz and chromatic music. It's been a life of music and traveling and connecting through music. And the older I was getting, when I was between 15 and 18 years old, when I went to Cuba to finish my classical piano studies, that's when I realized that music was making and shaping my life in a beautiful way. Music enables me to find my community instantly, like it happened in New Orleans and in Seattle. And of course, I want to be a nomad of sound because that's how I learn music. That's how I start over again learning, and it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me humble. I don't know anything. I'm just learning and learning, and I don't want to stop that situation. So
Yeah.
I'll keep going. I'm in New Orleans for a while. I want to live in Brazil. I want to live in West Africa, and I need to live in India because I also had some experience with Indian musicians in Seattle. I arranged a whole concert and produced a tune for the great maestro Ganesh Rajagopalan. He plays violin and he's in Shakti 50 with John McLaughlin. And I always felt compelled by Indian music on tenor and dulcimer, but since I really deepen into it, I really want to go there and go to a music school and say, I'm a baby, teach me what you teach to a kid when they start learning music. So that's my life, Hillary. I cannot stop now. It's just continuous. And that's what music is. It comes to you from people that were already making it and you pass it on to the next generation. It's a journey. It never ends. And it keeps me so interested in life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fantastic, Marina. That's absolutely brilliant. And it's that real nomadic, but it's more than just moving around from places, isn't it? And it's about taking the influences and the cultural everything.
I want to stay enough to feel that way. Yes, indeed. I stayed in Cuba for 3 years and I stayed in Seattle for 10. And now I'm in New Orleans for at least 3 to 5 years, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to go places for 2 weeks or even when I came 4 months, I was like, no, I need to come back. I want to learn how to play, the second line on snare drum. I really want to feel it as natural. And
Yeah.
it's just the way I like enjoying my life. So yes, you're right. I don't want to travel. I really want to live and mingle with the local rooted musicians. It's amazing.
Fantastic. Well, I've interviewed a few musicians from New Orleans. So when I come over,
Please
I'll
come.
definitely come and see you.
I'll take you around. Please come by. It's an amazing
Yeah.
city.
Fantastic. Well, it's really, really good to chat with you, Marina. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me and hope to see you here or I'll come over there. Why not? It's been a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll stay in touch. Thank you so much, Marina.
Thank you, Hillary.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation with Marina Albero. And what you're listening to now is the end of the journey from A Nomad of Sound. But obviously, it's not the end of her journey, is it? Please remember you can find reviews on the blog, and the link to that is in the show notes. Wherever you're listening, if you can just hit share and send this episode to somebody, or you can review it, can like it, whatever your podcast platform of choice is allowing you to do, it'd be great to have some feedback. Until the next episode, please share what you are good at. Use the hashtag #ShareHarmony. Thank you for joining me once more for Harmonious World. To the sound of the trees, there is a sweet place, calm and quiet, that we build for love and peace. If only I could now take you home, to be with you alone and begin again. You walk through all that life, the memories we made with all the smiles since the day when we met. And the birds and the Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.